Can't really say. I think that everybody's path is so different. And I think for myself, starting out, being a writer, not really being familiar with like any writing communities, because quite frankly, it just didn't really exist in my city. I think, there were definitely moments where I was like, okay, I should have been in New York at a different time, but I don't really feel that way. Like I really do think that there's something in like being at peace. And, the thing that really gives me peace, obviously it is God, but I can honestly say, I really feel like my dreams are so big, and like each year I get closer and closer to them, and it's literally in the little things. It's in the curiosity that just kind of like carries me. And so it's like, I don't know. I think when you start talking about like contentment and comparison, I don't know. I think genuinely when you start to love your life is the moment that you'll have a little bit more peace. And I think that comes with experience. I think that comes with isolation. I think that comes with, a sense of humility and experience, in a sense of like meeting other people and just kind of realizing like everybody's life is not, it's not to say it's not what you think. Like we don't really know. Like there are some people who are really doing great things, but I don't know. I think for myself, it's like when I look at my life and my journey, I feel like I'm right where I'm supposed to be. You know what I mean? Like I'm very grateful for the things I've done. I'm grateful for the things I've tried. I feel like even being in a city where I felt like it wasn't really big on like writing opportunities, I feel like I managed to do so much in spite of that. You know what I mean? In spite of being in a city where I felt like there was deprivation, and I think even still being in a place in my life where it's like, I still press forward towards my goals and towards the things that I want to do every day in my life. And I'm like so clear on that, and I think we started talking about dreams. After a while, a dream just becomes that. Like it's like a figment of your imagination, So it's like when you become an adult and you become a little bit more responsible, a dream kind of has to have a plan, and it actually takes work. And so I think for myself, it's like I have that sense of peace because I know what it is that I want, and it's like I'm on that. But yeah, I can't really say. I think that, where a lot of people may be struggling with comparison, and if you find yourself in that space, it's more so just like, I don't know. I just think that people's paths are so different. Like there are people who knew what they wanted to do from the age of like 5. There are people who had certain opportunities, certain experiences, like certain role models. Like there's just so much there. So I just don't really think you can compare yourself to anyone else. And then I think the reason why we kind of struggle with comparison is like a lack of self-belief within ourselves. And you have to check that. You have to be confident in your path. You have to be confident in your prayers and what it is that you're doing. And like, be sure of yourself in terms of success. I think the only time for me, I can say like the moments when I felt very shaky in terms of like my self-esteem and confidence in terms of comparison is like when I'm around people who are just so arrogant, because that's the thing. Like I feel like being in a culture where everybody's like very arrogant, and people kind of like to evoke and play on the emotion, or implant the emotion, right? And project the emotion of envy on other people. And I talked about that in the last podcast episode. Like I think a lot of people today just don't really know how to like, handle that, because you got to realize like, we're in a place now where it's like you really can be popping at such a young age, depending on what field you take and the things that you do. And you can also, have certain skills to craft it to make it look like you're living a certain type of life. So it's like, there's a lot of people that I think they kind of feed off that. And it's no different than like a person who's insecure, who just kind of like, goes around making other people feel insecure by the things that they say. And this is why, it's like I'm so against a lot of like paradigms today when people are like, nobody can make you feel, and you know what I mean? Like, yeah, to a certain extent, but there are some people who that's just their personality. Like they thrive off of negativity, and they want to bring that out of you. They want you to feel small. They want you to feel, you know what I mean? And there are some people who really play on that. Like there are some people who really get a kick out of that. Like them putting you down, whether indirectly, subconsciously, energetically, you know what I mean? Spiritually, whatever. It's like they get it. They thrive on that. It's some people who really like that. Like they got to keep you low, you know what I mean? In order for them to thrive. So I think one, being in a city where there was a lot of that, I say this all the time. Like I just got to this point in my life. I said, oh my God, I really grew up in the hood. Like I think when you're young, you're in it, you're surviving. You just tell yourself a lot of different things to get through. But yeah, I realized that I really grew up in deprivation. So I think when you're growing up in those communities, it's a lot of scarcity. So a lot of times, you kind of have to keep what you got going on the hush, because a lot of people are quick to kind of tear you down and make you feel small and put you down or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I think for me, I'm so grateful for my philosophies in terms of like being a writer, the things that I've learned. Like, I don't know. I think it's different for everybody, but I would say that life just don't work like that. I think you really have to put in a considerable amount of effort to get a certain type of reward. Like, I think about the work that I put in and where I am today by the grace of God. It's like, this is the thing, and I don't know. I think that I say this all the time, like, take somebody's advice, take the advice, try it. And if it doesn't work for you, then you should reconsider it. I think a lot of people are kind of in that space where it's like, the business could be something, but it's like, it's nothing because you don't really have anything to fund the business. And it's like, you have to realize a lot of people will give you business advice, but most people are just kind of showing up, giving you business advice so that you can invest in their business, whether that's like their coaching class, like people are kind of feeding you lies. And the thing is, we're so gullible, we're buying into it. It's a really powerful, it's a very powerful marketing tool. It's kind of like that within American society. And like, advertising agencies thrive on meeting a need. That's why you have a lot of people say, meet the needs of the community, talk about the niche, meet the need, people thrive on that. And so they know that, for example, if, you're struggling with weight loss or whatever, I'm going to sell you a pill and I'm going to just feed on your emotions and play on this and give you a testimony or whatever it is. I'm going to lie to you. Right. And like craft this message, copywriting in the whole nine. And then it's like, but I know deep down I lost this weight because I overcame some things. I went to trauma. I learned some new things. I really started to invest in myself and love myself. And like, I got off the couch and I actually went to the gym, and it's really that simple. But it's like, no, I have to sell this to you because now what you're seeing is this new version of me, right? I'm inspiring. I'm powerful. I'm living in such a better space. Spiritually, I'm higher. I'm high vibe. I'm healthy. You know what I mean? Like, I'm in such a better space. So it's like, now you're gravitating towards me and you're like, wow, how did you get this? And instead of me being honest with you, I'm going to find a way to market this because, everybody kind of wants a platform. Like I talked about this in a column. Platforms are essentially it's essentially like the new American dream. At one point there was a time where we would look up to celebrities and we were so curious about these worlds that we were not privy to. We were so curious about these worlds of like celebrityism, and we were just like, we really wanted a piece of that. We were like, wow, look at these MTV Cribs. You know what I mean? It just starts very early on. And it's like, we don't really see a world outside of that. And so that kind of becomes the American standard, right? Like you have a lot of people talking about this today, which, politics is something I don't really venture into. I'm really shifting with this podcast, but anyway, you have a lot of people talking about, certain things, and you just kind of realize there's a truth to that. Within American society, there's a top 1% of like wealth, and you talk about lies. You can look at that from a spiritual perspective. You can look at it from a lot of different perspectives, but it's more so just in a sense of like, we believe in this idea of like fundamental exceptionalism to the point where it's like, we just don't think it's possible for us. So we think that we have to like worship people and like mankind. And I don't want to tangent because I feel like this is low key going into a sermon, but all in all, I'm saying that, when you figure out who you are and what you're good at, like you will find peace with that. And quite frankly, I think what I found for most people who try to tear me down or, I'm in rooms with certain people and I'm good on me, I'm confident, I'm cool with who I am. A lot of people don't like when you're not fawning over them, right? They don't like when you're not a follower, when you're not a follower of them, right? They don't like when you're not a fan. Like people want you to like fawn over them. And this isn't a matter of like withholding love or praise or, anything like that when it's due. But I just think that because the standard is now having a platform, because the standard is now arrogance instead of confidence, because in order for me to be successful, it's like I have to lord over you, it's like a lot of people don't really know how to show up. It's kind of like that cognitive dissonance that people talk about when they talk about celebrities and things like that. It's like, you don't really know what it's like to not live a life where you're getting all of this attention. So it's like, you don't really know how to build relationships, right? You don't know how to be in certain rooms. And I think that that's why the world in the industries are the way they are today, like not just in terms of Hollywood, but in terms of like all of the industries, right? Everything with art, like all of these interdisciplinaries that really should be connected, right? Because everything is connected in terms of like education and sciences and, language arts, like it's all connected. But instead of us really being able to like have that, it's like it has to be so divided because I think the people and the type of personalities that gravitate towards different industries are different. And there's not really a lot of, talk about like-mindedness, like it's not very synonymous, right? Like success, it has a way of, it's different. You know what I mean? Like I think in terms of people and industries and how certain people show up within certain industries, you know? And so I think when you talk about characteristics that would make for, you know, great relationships or inspirational, you know what I mean? Whatever. I just don't think that you find that a lot of times within certain industries, because the prerequisite to be in these industries are things like arrogance, you know, like it's just very rare. And I talked about this too. I was reading Thomas Sachs, the myth of mental illness. And I talk about him being a Hungarian psychologist from Cincinnati. Well, he's not from Cincinnati. I think he's from like New York or Dayton or something like that, maybe, you know, but he graduated from the University of Cincinnati. And so I was so grateful to have stumbled across his work. But he talks about people who struggle with inferiority complexes have a desire to, or essentially it's not even really a desire, they want to feel better than you. Like they have to feel better than somebody. So for them, it's really hard. And so I think for myself, I talked about colorism a little bit, but, you know, I talk about the Black experience and so forth. But me growing up, being a girl who was in academia, being a brown skinned girl, you know what I mean? Like being slim, you know, things like that. I think for myself, I didn't really struggle with inferiority to a certain extent because I felt like I was able to be in certain rooms, you know, and I always talk about the colorism, you know, and I'm never going to shy away from that because I do think that every Black person has a different experience in America, though these things do not hold us back, but it is a different experience, you know. So for myself, you know, I didn't struggle with certain things. So I think in terms of like inferiority complex, that wasn't really something that was present within me. However, I do feel as though I had a lot of family members, who had passed that on to me, you know, but it was never really mine to own. And like, it was never anything that I could personally carry because I just didn't feel inferior to anybody. You know, I grew up being told that I can have anything I want if I believe in myself, if I trust in myself. I grew up always being innately curious. And even though I grew up in deprivation, I still was willing to like work for certain things and try certain things. Like, you know, I remember even in my high school, like I took advantage of certain opportunities. So it's like, when I look at my life, I think it's like, you know, it makes sense for me and my portion. I do think in terms of like earning potential, when you talk about comparison, things like that, I always say this, you have to really be mindful of geography. And I'm not going to say that holds you back, but you do have to understand that like when it comes to making money and earning a lot of it, it's a little bit more than just kind of like, you just like start, you know, like when you start talking about certain income brackets and things like that, I do think that peer proximity plays a role. But I think outside of that, there's a lot that kind of goes into that. Like, yes, it's a very fundamental kind of like thing, like anybody can do it. It's like a skill. It's not rocket science, right? But it's at the same time, there are a lot of components that I think go into that. And then I think if you step back and not necessarily lean on traditionalism, but more so look at the world in a more holistic and like realistic way and like consider yourself a part of that, you just kind of realize that it just kind of takes time because you have to acquire skills. You know, people pay you for your skills. People pay you for the value that you contribute to the world or their lives or whatever based on the product and the services that you provide. And then I think in terms of making money, outside of, you know, money management and things like financial literacy, you know, there's kind of like a science to it. Like, I just think that there's so much more to that, like outside of, you know, collaboration. Like, I just think when you start talking about the accumulation of a thing, it takes time, you know, because I think that money and to have more money is about accumulation. So, yeah, that's actually, honestly, I'm like, that's pretty much what it is, you know? So it's like you can either accumulate it over time or you can accumulate it by collaborating with others, you know? So it's like, that's pretty much your path. And so, you know, you have to kind of sit in that space and realize that as well. But like I said, for myself, you know, I think geography plays a role because I think when you live in a city where it's capped, you know, that's like if you're somewhere in like the boonies of like Alabama or Missouri or like, you know, somewhere where there's deprivation, that's not something that is necessarily possible, you know, because you need exposure. You need peer proximity, you need information, you know, you need new skills, you need the environment to really be able to create that and have that. So I just think it takes time, but we live in a world today where it's like we want to shortchange ourselves, you know, so it's like that's not really a thing. But yeah, I think all in all, you know, if you're struggling with comparison, you really have to be honest and like ask yourself, what is it about your life that you don't love? What is it about your life that you're not really so happy about? And then I think, if you can identify that and be real with yourself, right? Because the only person who's going to lose here is you. Like, be honest with yourself about the things you don't like about your life, whether you can go to therapy, which, you can try to work that out with the therapist if it's the things that you can't change. And if it's things that about your life that you can change, work towards changing them. And I don't really, I'm not going to give you this like idea or this type of, two-step program, or what I mean? People were like, well, just work at it every day, because I know life happens. We have responsibilities. And I don't know. I just feel like that's just not the thing. But I do think that a lot of times discontentment is honestly something that's going on with you internally. Like, I think you have to kind of like work at what is it about you that's feeling discontented, because I really do think that the more you go on like that and you struggle with like inferiority complex and you struggle with comparison, it's really not going to matter, because it's always going to be somebody who has something else, that you don't have. And so I think sometimes, the bombarding and like the accessibility of technological advancements puts us in a position to where we kind of just feel like, we just feel like we're just not unique. And so I think you have to kind of create a haven for yourself and like really nurture your uniqueness and like nurture your divinity. Like you really are unique, and you're one person. Like, sure, you may share certain hobbies with other people, which I stay to this day. You know what I mean? I just don't even, because it's like, you have to realize we have the internet now, right? So it's like, people pretty much go online and like they can take a person who is authentic and like their originality, and then it just kind of becomes like emulation. And before you know it, it's so lost on the person who actually, so it's like, I don't know. I think you have to kind of just know that within yourself. But I do think a way to kind of shortchange that and like really be in tune with yourself is actually to kind of tune out of the noise of everybody else and like tune in with yourself and, find other ways to occupy your time with the things that you love, to get you to the place that you'll be, and I think if you're really putting in the work right now in your life to have a better future, focus on that work, and, understand that like, I love this podcast. It's called Sprout. It's not a podcast. I'm sorry. It's a YouTube channel. It's called Sprout. And there's this guy, he goes around asking people of all race, of all gender, of all ages, their regrets in life and things they wish they knew sooner. And there was this guy, say he was 35 from Canada. And he was like, I thought I was going to have this huge house and and, I think that the thing is, right, like, I think my concern for society is what happens when we have this huge fall, from young adults, matriculating, right, or transitioning into adulthood, when they realize that they may not actually achieve this, which is the now American dream, right, which is fame. Like, what happens when we have a rise and fall from that? Because I think at one point, obviously, we kind of we had to create a new standard, right? Because we were like, okay, I can't afford a house, right, in this economy or whatever the case may be. So now we have this new standard, but I think this new standard is a little bit less attainable, because I think that it comes with so much, there's so many blind spots within it, right? So I think honestly, buying a house is probably a lot easier in our society today than actually becoming famous. And so I think what a lot of people sidetrack, at least in our adolescent brains, in our young adult brains, is like fame in terms of like managing it and like you being the type of person to go out and actually seek it. Like, I don't know, like that's the thing that kind of concerns me, but I don't want to veer too far left on that. I just think overall, we are just in a very interesting place right now. And if you could find a sense of peace within yourself and like really tap out, like hold on to that peace, you know what I mean? Like, and you really have to spend time with like yourself. I think we spend a little bit too much time with other people that we don't know, that makes our lives feel, but I also think too, I've really been able to hold on to certain parts about myself because I felt like my path was different. And I'm very grateful for this, right? Like, I talk about not growing up in a city where there was a writing community, not really having that nurtured, having to kind of create my own thing. I really feel so blessed because of that, because I feel like that really grounded me in my own individuality. And I didn't feel this pressuring or this ushering to be like, okay, what do I want to do? All right, boom, I'm going to be in the space of content creation, right? Because it's like it's very competitive. So for me, it was like, okay, I came from the back kind of like working my way to the front, so to speak, you know what I mean, in terms of the writing industry, because I had to put in the work to figure out, you know what I mean, to get to the place and like so forth. And so I think it's different when you grow up and you're knee deep in this environment of competition. You know, I think that's really hard for you to kind of hone in on your skills, especially if you don't have anyone to bounce, you don't have anyone to kind of like strengthen you in that sense, you know, like, I don't know. I think that there's just so much nuance to this, but yeah, I definitely think overall, really sit with yourself. And I think you have to ask yourself, like, am I happy with my life? Like deep down, and you have to be real, like, okay, is this just a season, or is this just a matter of like, there are some things I really need to change, or I'm actually on the wrong path, Like, I think that that's like a really big thing. Like, you really have to kind of sit in that space within yourself, because I think until you do that, you'll never really be happy, because you'll just keep making the wrong decisions, like, constantly. And I do believe that if you really get right with God, like, God will really direct your steps. Like, I think for myself, I think about the things I prayed for and where I am right now in my life. It feels very genuine, and I think at the end of the day, regardless of what my harvest is, it's my harvest. It's something that I've done, seeds I've sown authentically. You know what I mean? It's genuine. It's organic. It's authentic. It's not something to where it's like I just picked up on a trend, or I just, you know what I mean? Because I really do think when you try to do what someone else does, like, it leads to disappointment, Like, I think that that's like the biggest disappointment. And then it's like you can never get the time back as well, So I don't know. There was what was I listening to? Oh, there was a podcast, and it talked about under-earning, and I was questioning. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, am I under-earning? I'm like, okay, I've been doing this podcast. Like, you know what I mean? We really haven't brought in a check, but I've seen other people do it in a different way. So I was just wondering, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, am I under-earning? And I don't feel that way. Like, I don't know. I tell you guys this all the time. I think we do live in a society where it's like, anything is possible, right? We have the internet, but I truly believe in hard work. Like, I think about the things that, I won, and the things that I have, had a gist of and I ventured into. I don't ever feel like I was ready for those things, but I don't ever feel like I ever shied away from those things. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I was working towards those things, and I had such a sense of peace within that. And I think that that's what it's like when you have God on your side. That's what it's like when you have confidence within yourself and the things that you're doing in your path. And I think the challenging thing is, like I said, is more so, I don't always think it's you. I think it's really just like dealing with other people who have this type of inferiority complex. I think the hardest thing is actually dealing with other people. I don't really always think it's dealing with yourself. I think it's dealing with others, because you have so many people who have no awareness, of who they are, of what's going on with them internally. They have no awareness of where they come from. They have no literal awareness, So I just think that that's challenging. That's really challenging. And it's like they're looking for you or someone, you know what I mean, to kind of feel that and fit that. And that's the thing that scares me the most, because it's like, if you don't have that foundation of like authenticity, then that's the danger, that's the danger. It's not really missing opportunities or missed time. You know what I mean? I think the danger comes from that right there, And so, anyway, I was listening to this podcast, and it talked about, under-earning, and I was reading the book. I talked about this. It's called Gifted Adults. And it was just talking about how, you should compare yourself to the people who are around you, like you should compare yourself to the people who are near you to that extent, and not to people who are like so far-fetched. Like I knew someone who was working in a, big city, rich city. And this person was like, I'm like the poorest person here, and And I'm like, you didn't grow up there. You like, you know what I mean? Like, you're just there, like, working, like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't really give what you think it gives, So it's so crazy. I just hope I'm getting through to somebody, like, really work on overcoming your inferiority complexes. Like, I heard a woman today say this, and this is something that I truly stand on now that I'm like in my purpose. I'm walking with the Lord. Like, if God called me to it, it's no reason for me to fret and feel, you know what I mean? Because one thing I know about American society, and one thing I know about God, like one, God is not going to withhold any good thing from you. But when it's your season, it's your season. You know what I mean? And then I think too, like, given American society, people ain't gonna, you know what I mean? Depending on what you're doing, you know what I mean? Because we know it's easy today to make a fool out of yourself, but it's like, nobody's giving you an opportunity if they don't believe in you. they're not gonna put you on a stage to embarrass them or yourself, you know? So it's true. It's like, if you really are called to something, walk in it and be grateful for your portion and like really enjoy the fruits of your labor, you know, because it didn't come from nothing. Like, I think about when I first started and I was like, all right, you know, I'm studying bio, I'm studying organizational leadership, you know, then I switched to journalism, dropped out, started a blog. I'm like, you know, I remember being in my bedroom and I was like putting sticky notes on the wall because I wanted to expand my vocabulary. And it's like, fast forward, you know what I mean? Here I am, I'm teaching kids, you know, I'm working as a writer facilitator, you know what I mean? I'm working as an editor at a magazine. I'm working as a copywriter, you know what I mean? Like, and it's like, that's divine. You know what I mean? That's what was for me. You know what I mean? And it all started by just being like, okay, this is what I want to do. And it starts very small. It didn't start like, okay, yeah, I'm going to be a writer. I'm about to no, it started out as me writing little blog posts. Then I did poetry. Then I wrote a book, and now I'm writing essays, and now I'm reading, you know, about history. Like, it's so much more than just like, all right, go. You know what I mean? Like, that's not life. That's not the journey. Like, you learn so much along the way. You have so many skills along the way. And the vision, honestly, your vision gets clearer the more that you go forward. But the thing is, the only way you're going to have peace is when you're on your path. You're never going to get that if you're on somebody else's path. If you're trying to be a rapper, you know good and well, where did that even come from? You know, sometimes we have to really sit back and ask ourselves, where did that come from? Is that something I saw online? And it's okay. Like, you're not a follower. Listen, you have to understand right now, listen, the influence and the mind control and the advertising agencies, like, it's so much bigger than us. Like, please do not feel insecure or vulnerable if you are like, who am I? What am I doing? Like, where am I at right now? Like, please do not feel that way. Just say a prayer, you know what I mean? And pray that God puts you on your path, because it's like, you have to understand it's so much bigger than you. Like, it's not that you're weak. It's not that you're a follower. We are literally at the hands of people who have like the country's wealth and their businesses. Like, we can't control certain things. So please do not feel like you're a failure, or you feel like you're wrong, or you feel, you know, any kind of way about you not knowing that. You know what I mean? Please, like, please understand it's so much bigger than you. You know, you are not responsible for the influence that certain people have and the things that they say and how it impacts your relationships. You know, you're dating people and they're quoting some life coach or somebody that they heard online. You know what I mean? Like, you're not responsible for that. That's so much bigger than you. But I just think that overall, though, for you to really get in that space, like, you have to get on your path, and it starts with one idea, one vision that comes from God, and it's your purpose. It's one thing. It's one thing. It's not several different things, and it's probably not anything that has no meaning. If you're gonna have a hobby, that's one thing. But I personally, as a grown woman, like I told you guys, you know, when you mature, you understand that dreams are nothing but more than imaginations. Like, if you don't have no plans for this dream, it's not gonna make sense. But I truly believe that, you know, it's all a matter of like work and action and tangibles. Like, how are you going to get there? You know, I think with social media, because of the array of like videos and photography, like, you know, it's so much, like, it's so mentally stimulating, and it's draining at times, right? Because it's so mentally stimulating. I think we sometimes confuse that with our work. We sometimes confuse social media with like real time. You know what I mean? Like, we get those confused, and it's like, yeah, you can post a video and it go viral and it open up opportunities for you, but it's like, is that, you know, like, I don't know. And I don't want to speak against nobody's dreams or, you know, anything that nobody's praying for, because anything is possible with the Lord. But I just think overall, it's like, I don't know. I just think you have to kind of, you gotta almost like parent yourself. Like, you almost have to like parent yourself, discipline yourself, and like get a hold of you, so that you don't look up and be like disappointed with your adult life, you know, because it's like, as you matriculate into adulthood, it's like, okay, what work are we putting in? What are we really doing? You know what I mean? And like, I think if you build something and maybe it doesn't generate a certain amount of profit, I don't know. I mean, I just think that that's entrepreneurship. Like, I learned a long time ago, you can probably have multiple businesses in this lifetime. You can do multiple things that generate multiple streams of income. But, you know, there are some businesses that's not going to last forever. You know what I mean? Like, you're probably going to always be like entrepreneurial and, starting new things and doing new things. Like, that's the thing too. People don't really tell you that, because it's like the standard of entrepreneurship is white billionaires, you know what I mean? Who've inherited wealth, who like, you know what I mean? Who have not only a fountain of wealth, but they also have like a fountain of knowledge. They're in Ivy League colleges, like, Harvard Business School. Like, you're not, you know what I mean? So it's just like, you have to get on the road, but also understand what you're asking for, and like really work strategically to kind of create a life for yourself. Like, for me, I always knew that if nothing else, like, I just enjoyed my hobbies. I enjoyed doing what it is that I love, like writing and teaching. It just gave me a sense of joy, and I enjoyed doing that. I wasn't going to put all of my eggs in that basket, not because I didn't believe in myself, but just because I just felt like it was just the thing that I loved. Like, I wasn't really like, okay, how can I market this per se, And I think that that's also the reason why I'm really able to kind of maintain a sense of authenticity with it and with the creation, is because I'm not pressed. You know what I mean? I'm not like, I got to make this, I got to do this, I got to put this out, you know what I mean? It doesn't go like that for me. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, I love this. This is fun. This is enjoyable. But it's like, I still manage to do other things outside of my life to sustain myself. I have a life outside of this, and people look at that like failure. Like, when you talk to people and it's like, oh, your business didn't do X, Y, and Z, why are you, working a job, or, you know what I mean? And it's just like, no, like, honestly, this is why I say, like, you just have to know yourself and really tap out, because it's like, you don't realize it, but it's like you find yourself falling in line with a lot of things that just ain't it. Like, okay, just because you love softball on the weekends doesn't mean you should probably start a league. I mean, you could, but it's like, is that something you really want to do? Do you really want to be responsible for the logistics? Do you really want to be And I think I'm more so just saying that to say, like, you can be an amazing person and have a wonderful personality and have incredible hobbies and have so many great things about yourself. But it's like, if you feel like, if you don't have a business, or if you don't have, a certain amount of success, then you feel like you just are nothing. Like, you feel like you have nothing cool about you. You would feel like you have no sense of value. And it's like, that's just not true. Should we all be growing and learning? Yes. And I do think we should all start like a little side business. One, because it feels good to know that you can take care of yourself. Like, if nothing else, you feel like you can generate something for yourself, that feels good. And we always want to be growing, like, so it's like, you don't ever really know, but it's like, I think to just be like so unrealistic when you don't even have the tools, the knowledge, and the resources to really have a certain type of business that produces a certain type of results, that's not cool, man. That's literally not okay. Like, it's literally not okay. Like, take your time. If you really want to do entrepreneurship, put in the work and just know it's going to be work. And I'm not talking about staying up late at night designing. No, I'm talking about, how am I going to run this business? How am I going to get the skill? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you have to understand that's the thing. That's the thing. And if you really want to go further, faster, then you be ready to make a lot of sacrifices. And the thing is about that, it's like, people will come out and tell you, oh, you got to make sacrifice, you got to do all this and that. But you have to understand that advice is not going to work for everybody. You know why? Because people have different values. It's certain things that people are not going to put over, like, for example, people are parents. And I will hope, but I know we live in a society today that doesn't prioritize children, which, is really sad to me. But it's like, I will hope that the child will come first. You know what I mean? I will hope that, the people that you love would come first, and you would have some type of balance in terms of, not even really balance, but I would just hope that you would prioritize your values and the things that matter to you, rather than, trying to get to a certain place. Like, I don't know. I think one thing I've learned as I chill out with God, I have so much faith in Christ at this point, in terms of like where he's taking me, because I used to be someone who was just very anxious. Like, I used to struggle with so much anxiety, because it's like, you really don't know what the future holds, but I can honestly say where I am today and like just constantly keeping God close and staying in communion and staying prayed up, I can honestly say I think it's going to work out a lot better than you're expecting. Like, I think that this is pretty good. This is pretty good. Like, where we are right now, this is a vibe. This is the vibe. I'm liking this. It seems like things actually do work out for your good. It's a real thing that, God is not a man, he shall lie. And that scripture definitely holds a lot of truth, because I could have never predicted this. It's like, okay, yeah, I say I want to be a writer. I look at myself at 16. What did I say I wanted to do? I remember I was in my AP English class, didn't know I was gifted, didn't know, didn't really have too much self-esteem, kind of quirky, kind of dorky, graduated at 17, you know what I mean? But it was really because of my birthday. But, I'm going to throw that out there because I just still would be like, anyway, had no clue. Like, I had no clue. I'm like, okay, yeah, I want to do this. I want to do that. I wrote some things down years later, but I never thought that it was going to give what it's given today. I never thought that. And I think one thing I found with a lot of people who are discontent in their lives is they're not putting in the work. Like, you got to be real with yourself. I'm telling you right now, the only person who's going to lose is you. Are you lazy? If you're lazy, that's okay. You need to just go ahead and embrace the fact that you're lazy. At least if you will face it, then maybe you can make some changes, or you can just accept yourself. You get to a certain point. I'm not going to lie. I get to a certain age. I'm like, listen, I'm at this age now where it's giving take it or leave it. You know what I mean? And not in terms of complacency, but in terms of like knowing who you are as a person. Like, there are just certain things about you. I'm talkative. Take it or leave it. That's just what it is. I want to wake up. I have my mental gymnastics. I got my thoughts going. I need to express, I need to listen, like I just think for myself, it's just like, take it or leave it, and people will look at me and they would talk about my journey. Like, oh my God, like you're just doing all these different things. I believe in taking opportunities. I think even though I always knew I wanted to be a writer, God has showed me that I was so much more than a writer. Like, first of all, I'm God's child. God lives within me. So I'm really full of a lot of potential. So that's first thing. So it's like, I'm probably more than a writer in summary. You know what I mean? Like, it's so much bigger than me. Like the writing thing, like, girl, you're so much more than a writer. I'm doing different things. I'm trying different things. Some gifts come easier than others, right? Certain things that I'm trying. I'm like, okay, I'm actually pretty good at that. Then, you know what I mean? That's something that's innate. Okay, that's a gift. Okay, that's a talent over there. We got some strengths over there. Like that process of self-discovery, you should be doing different things. The American society, and this is why I believe that we have so much illiteracy and why we have so much intellectual discourse today, is because people don't really take the time to like learn about all things, And let me say this too, the sidebar on learning about all things. Assata Shakur said that our minds are so open, our brains are spilling out. I believe that. I think that we live in a society today too, where y'all don't really respect people's I don't want to say intellectual boundaries, but I do think that intellect is a boundary. I do think that in terms of like opinions, opinions are opinions, is whatever. And talk is no longer cheap because you can definitely be paid to talk. So, say what you will. But, instead of people being compensated for wisdom, it more so leans on the opinion side of things, right? You don't really have to go to school or, really put in any work to kind of just start a pod and like express yourself, which is not a bad thing because that's what I do, but it's not one and the same per se. Anyway, I just think that like I'm losing my train of thought, but basically I'm just saying that like overall, you have to be willing to like put in the work. Oh, that's what I was saying about being a writer. Yeah. So anyway, be willing to open yourself up and try different things. And I talked about this in the last podcast episode, like not letting things have you. Like I will always be so rooted in who I am in my spirit, who I am in Christ. Like things are never going to have me. I don't care what I accomplish in this world. I cannot take it with me. I am not willing to go to certain depths to get it, to acquire it. I'm just not, because it doesn't agree with my spirit. I'm not with it, So that's what I was saying about being open-minded. You have to understand too, people are quick to call you a narcissist when you don't want to bend on what it is that they're talking about. Like you have to understand, you have to incubate yourself, like especially in terms of the society today. Like everybody's got an opinion, right? We just talked about that. That's what I was saying. Everybody's got an opinion. So it's like, you have to know who you are. You can't be so quick to just adopt somebody's ideology. Okay. Just because they said it. So what? That doesn't make you closed off. That doesn't make you a narcissist, because I'm standing on what I stand on. And even if you don't like it or you know what I mean, it doesn't matter. I'm standing on what I stand on, period. And that's what I stand on. That doesn't make me a narcissist, because I don't want to hear your foolery. I don't want to hear it. I'm not with it. I don't agree with it. It doesn't align with my life. I'm not with it, period. That doesn't make you a narcissist. People today will really try to berate you for not sharing the same ideologies as them. You have to understand, when we start talking about studies, first of all, college is very linear, right? The only studies you're probably going to have where there's diversity is probably liberal arts, but even still, what is a liberal arts degree? Like, what is that? Does that really give you, multidisciplinary studies? Like, is that, you know what I mean? Like, yes, it is, but like, what does it really consist of? And like, depending on the college that you go to, what does that degree really offer you in terms of range? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. So I more so say that to say it's like, it's okay to be somebody who stands on something, and it's okay to be someone who's like, okay, I'm not with certain things. I don't want to do certain things. I'm not going to open myself up to certain things. Like, it's okay. Like, that doesn't mean you closed off. That doesn't mean you're ignorant. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't mean any of those things. That means that this is who you are. This is what you stand on. This is what you believe, and this is what you're about. Sure, there are going to be some beliefs that change. I've even had that for myself, feeling a little different about some of the work that I was in and activism, and you know what I mean? Like, but at the end of the day, it's like, at the end of the day, like we're always going to be growing, but at the end of the day, it's like, stand for something. It's okay to stand for your values and your principles and standing on business in terms of what you believe and what you're about. Like, yeah, we're always going to learn and grow, but it's okay. You don't always have to open yourself up to everything just because people are like, oh, this is what you need to learn about. I don't care to learn about that. I don't want to learn about that. You know what I mean? Period. I have no interest. I'm not even pulled to that. Like, spiritually, that disrupts my spirit, even learning about this. It doesn't even sit right with me. You have to understand, you can't be so quick to let anybody talk at you. You know what I mean? You don't have to listen to this. I remember I had a professor. She tried to tell me something about, something historically with like black people and so forth. And I was asking her, I'm like, okay, where's we had a conversation. You know what I mean? And I remember I had a professor prior to that too. It was my journalism professor. I remember he was teaching something, and I asked him a question. I was like, what does that mean? And he was like, I don't know. So it's like, you have to understand, just because people are in authority, just because somebody's on a platform with a podium, don't mean you need to be letting them feed your spirit and feed your soul, period. Like, it doesn't mean you're being ignorant. Like, no. And, they try to say that too in journalism. Like, it's about getting out and talking to people. Well, everybody's experience is subjective. Me personally, I like to take mine in doses. I read my books. I have I have boundaries with that. That's all I'm saying. I have boundaries with that. Like, you can't be so open-minded, because your brain really will start spilling out, and you're going to start doing things that just don't make sense. Like, does that make sense to you? Does that make sense to you? Or did somebody just come up to you and berate you with something, and like, now you feel like this is what you have to do? Or, you know what I mean? Like, does that make sense to you though? But as long as it makes sense for you, as long as it, you know what I mean? And I think the thing is too, is like, it sucks because we're young, we're impressionable. So it's like a lot of people take advantage of that. Our generation is so like, we're a very lucrative generation. You know what I mean? We don't really have no bounds. You know what I mean? We don't really have, like, we're very careless. We're very open. We're very, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's easy for a lot of people to market to us and to, tell us certain things and to like play on that. You know what I mean? It's really sad how they're really snuffing us right from our innocence. But I'm getting older, so, a little different for me. Nonetheless, that's pretty much my pod on comparison. That's what I've learned. Like, the more you tap in with you, the less you really care about X, Y, and Z. And when you focus on your path and you see how God is showing up and doing big things for you in your life, then that's really all that matters. Like, you don't got time to be considering X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean? Focus on your family, focus on your friends, focus on the people that you love, the people that you actually know, the people who actually show up for you, the people who support you, the people who love you, the people who yada yada. And you just stay your course, and you do you, and it will come with time. It will come with time, and you have to stop comparing yourself, because I'm telling you right now, money, success, the whole game is all a matter of resources, skills, but most importantly, time. You know what I mean? Most importantly, time. Like, people can catapult that time, for a price, maybe a hefty price. It may be your soul. I don't know. But it's like, if you don't be too hasty. Take your time. Take your time. Put in the work. Okay. Understand that and realize that for the people you're comparing yourself with, what were they doing at 10? What were you doing at 10? And you can't be like, oh, I'm mad at my mom. I'm mad at the world. I'm mad at my dad. I'm mad at me being black and growing up in the hood. No, you have to be like, okay, cool. Maybe I'll make sure my kid is doing a thing at 10. You know what I mean? I'll make sure my kid is in that program, or my kid is at 10. You know what I mean? Because I know that it's possible that when my kid is in their 20s, they're going to be X, Y, and Z. But since you're not there and that does not apply to you, keep it pushing. Just continue to do you. And at the end of the day, I would never, never, never tell you to attach your worth to anything. I don't care what it is. I don't care what it is. I don't care what it is. I've written pieces that are very risky. I've written things that were kind of messy. I've said things that were kind of radical. You know what I mean? Like, the whole nine. But it's like, it will never define me. And that's not to discredit my work. That's not to discredit my intellect. That's not to discredit, my purpose and the time that I put into the research for that article or whatever. But it's like, at the end of the day, I'm so much bigger than this. You know what I mean? Like, please don't ever lose sight of your spirit and like who you are, like, in Christ. Who you, like, don't lose your soul. Like, understand, like, you are really put here for like a big purpose, and like, you light up the room. You know what I mean? Like, this is more like a love letter. You know what I mean? Like, seriously, like, you are that light So, understand that. Like, please do not get so caught up in, you know what I mean? Like, none of that matters, and I really hope that you're surrounding yourself with people who will love you, even if you come into the room and all you have is a bag of donuts. You know what I mean? And I want some pizza right now. So, if you're just bringing a box of pizza, or if you're bringing nothing, like you're just coming with the vibes, you got got a great playlist and great conversation. You know what I mean? I like your shirt today. You know what I mean? Like, so that's what life is about, because all this other stuff, we can't control it. You can't control if your business is going to do it. You know how many how many indie low key artists are incredible, like literally incredible, like sickening, incredible. And they will never get that credit. You know how many gifted people are under the radar? Gifted people, like myself, people who are talented, people who got, so many great things about themselves, don't have a platform. Might not even got a social media. They out working their job. They going home to their family every day alone with their thoughts. Don't even know. You know what I mean? Like, please understand that, like, it's so much bigger than you. You are bigger than what you do. Don't tie your worth to it. Don't let them things have you. Don't, people are fickle. They can love you today and hate you tomorrow, And then the thing about success is this too. It's all a matter of timing, It's a matter of timing. Like, sometimes you have to wait until the fakes die out and people don't want that no more. Then they really want like soul food and authenticity. Then that may be your time. If you're real, it might be your time at that point. You know what I mean? It's kind of like you're dating young guys and they're not looking for that. They're not looking for that real thing. You know what I mean? They're looking for something fun. They're looking to, you know what I mean? Yada, yada, yada. And it's like when they're tired of playing the field, then they're looking for something real, So it's like, hey. I'm being serious. Like, it's really that. Like, sometimes you have to just, your moment. You know what I mean? You have to wait on your moment. Like they say, to use materialism. Okay, that's not a good analogy. I'm going to stop there because at this point I'm rambling. But anyway, I'm being for real. Enjoy your life. Seriously, enjoy your life. Find something that you just like to do just because you want to do it. You know what I mean? Seriously, like, don't be stressed out about anything. Like, it's not worth it. Nobody knows what the future holds, but I can assure you, if you just stick with God, you will get something better and you will be happier with what your portion is, and it'll be something you can manage. It'll be something that is authentic. It'll be something that is aligned. It'll be something that makes sense for you. Like, it's not going to be you in a space that it just doesn't even make sense for you. Like, you got all these gifts and you're in this space where it's like you can't even use your gifts. Like, that makes no sense. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like being a talented painter and it's like you're working at this whatever, or you're doing this, or you're starting that type of business. Like, does that make sense for you? No, it does not. That don't make sense for you. That's you're not in alignment. You know what I mean? So yeah, there's that on that. And I'm gonna close with this by saying, I always believe that you should express yourself. Like, this is low-key sounding like an ad. It's sounding like an ad, but I'm being serious. Like, find ways to express yourself, whether that be through podcasting, whether that be through a journaling, whatever. Like, express yourself, allow your feelings to pass, allow yourself to kind of empty out your mind. You know what I mean? If you can do that by inspiring other people, that's great. If not, that's cool too, but allow yourself to express yourself. Like, get yourself a journal, go for a walk in the park, talk out loud, get in prayer. Like, if you don't have no friends or anybody you can confide in, like, always find time to express yourself. Like, we go through a lot, we have this internet, like, we see a lot, you know what I mean? It's a lot. Like, be in tune with your emotions and your self-awareness. Like, everything I talked about today in terms of comparison and feeling inferiority and all these different things, like, I can honestly say, having people in my life who are good for me, people who God has sent me, it's like, you don't feel that way. So you have to understand too, like, you're not for everybody. And then you also have to know when you're in rooms where it's like you're around people and, you're feeling like, you're in a room full of sharks, you may be feeling that way, and that's okay. It's like sometimes we have experiences in life, God opens certain doors so we can grow. And that's continuous. So we have to learn how to manage our discomfort a little bit better. But, sometimes you're in the wrong room, and sometimes you're just around people who just, that's just their thing. Like, I'm telling you right now, there are some people who they get a kick out of that, especially when you're kind and you know what I mean? Like, you're authentic. That's another thing too. Like, when you're real, people don't like that. People don't like that. Like, when you can see through, like, when you got your discernment, when you can see through the tomfoolery, people can't stand that. They don't like that, because now their spirit is disrupted. You're shining light on that darkness, and they don't like that. They're good in their darkness. They want to be in their darkness. Okay, they like that. They like being over there sitting with Satan, looking crazy. You know what I mean? Looking crazy, straight up looking crazy. So when you come around and you yourself and you're real and you like, oh no, and that's another thing too. Like, I'm so blessed. It's like, the way I carry myself and so forth. People be thinking that my life is, and then I show up and I'm just real. They don't like that. They don't like that. It's like, it's a disappointment to them because, they're let down and so that's what I'm saying. Like, all in all, you have to express yourself because, you got to know who you are. Like, have self-awareness with yourself so you can at least manage and grow and move on in like certain situations. You know what I mean? Because you can't manage other people. Like, you can't control other people, what other people do, what they think, how they move and so forth. So it's like, get to that place in your life where you really learn how to manage yourself and like how to, like, what does Jalen need right now? What am I feeling right now? Okay, I left that room. What was really going on last night? Like, or what was going on at that dinner? You know what I mean? Like, what was I feeling? Like, was it me? Was I feeling insecure? Or was this person, really doing the most? Like, was they really like going above and beyond to kind of be condescending? Was they really kind of talking out the side of their neck? Like, what was really happening last night? Like, what was it really giving? And I think the only way you're going to be able to accurately assess that is if you know yourself, because too often people want the cushy messages of like, oh, it was them. You're in the wrong room, friend. Like, it's probably you. Like, I've seen people have a whole content page and they're always talking about how other people are and how other people this and this other people, they're not your friend. It's like, I'm just looking at this person. I'm like, you just seem very problematic. Like, it's very problematic. Like, it's probably you, but I think for so many people, it's just the easier thing to do to like look out and be like, it's them, it's them, it's somebody else. And it's like, no, I've had times where it's like, I felt like, little fish, and I was like, dang, like, I'm just not here. I felt a little uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Like, but you also have to realize too, like I said, about surrounding yourself with good people, positive people who have that awareness. Cause I don't think it's anybody's job to coddle you. I don't think it's anybody's job to like make you feel comfortable. But I think you have to realize it's different personalities. Like I said, I don't really gel well with people who are like very flashy and like very flamboyant because I'm not like that, and I'm also the type of person, I'm very social. Like I said, I'm extroverted. So I really like people. Like, I like getting to know people. Like, like I have my 1-2 when I'm like on my own time, but I genuinely like people. So it's like, for me, it's like when you like people, it's like you want people to chill and like, be able to be themselves and things like that. Not everybody is like that. And it's not because they want you to feel, no type of way, but it's just like, not everybody has that. So for me, it's like, I can't always control who I'm around, because it's like we have work, we have things we have to get done, and like that's just not life. But for the most part, as far as like inner circle and like, who has access to what and like time and, who, what I mean? Like, where most of my time is going with people who I can really relate to. But I also think this is the thing too about being set apart and being in Christ. I truly believe in like being around people who are like equally yoked. So spend your time with people like that, and they will actually shine the light on you so that they will inspire you to become the better version of yourself. They will encourage you to get in Christ and get right with God and, be in your purpose, to where they're not even going, it's not going to be no room for comparison, because they're going to be so busy lifting you up that it's not really going to give what you think it's going to give. Like, you guys are going to be like eagles, you know what I mean? Like soaring high. Everybody's on a good tip. We all on that Christ consciousness. Okay. We're all on that JC frequency. Okay. So it's just like, it's good people around you. You know what I mean? So it comes a point in time, like, like I said, if you grew up in the hood, keep pressing, you'll come up out of the ghetto. Just keep praying, and keep being willing to put in the work and keep your mind, stay positive, try to feed yourself, good things, i.e. the holy word, the Bible. I actually was out today and had to make a stop, had to do a little errand, and I was like late or whatever. And I called them, told them I was going to be a little late, and they tried to play me on the phone. But I was like, you know what, God, I said my prayers, I was like, okay, cool. I'm not even going to come in here on that. Cause I'm like, oh, whatever. I get to the front desk. The girl is real nasty. She's just, whatever. I'm like, okay, I'm paying her no mind, because it's like, the guy's like, yeah, come on. Like, we're going to take you, we're going to get you, it's a quick thing that she's here for. We'll, get you taken care of. And it's like, you see what I'm saying? Like, God, no. Like, and it's like, it'd be the little prayers, because she was really stern. Like, and I'm at the front desk. I'm like, okay, given all X, Y, and Z. She's still arguing with me. Like, no, we're not going to see you today. Like, you're not going to be able to, But, I said that prayer and I got what I needed to get done. And, I truly believe that God provides for you. Like, seriously, he will really, because he knew I needed what I came to get. Okay. So I affirmed myself. I said, I always get what I want, period. So blessings to you. Okay. And be happy with yourself. Understand that, like, I think if you could get to a place in your life where you figure out who you are outside of the work that you do, like when you get to a place in your life where you can celebrate your accomplishments, but not allow them to consume you, not allow your entire self-esteem and your entire purpose for living and your entire spirit to be based on what you can achieve and what you can produce and the things that you have, you're going to have better friendships. You're going to just be a better vibe, because we need more people like that in the world. So please take something from this podcast episode. If nothing else, like, please be the type of person to where it's like, you know who you are. You can just go out and live your life and enjoy yourself. That doesn't mean you play small. You can talk about the things that you're into. People can see it on you. You know what I mean? They can see that favor. They can see that oil. They see the fruit in your life, point blank, period. Like, you don't have to be that type of person to where that always has to be at the forefront. I also think that this is due to, a lack of not cultural awareness, but a lack of social skills. You know what I mean? Like, I think for a lot of people who take this very narrow path, right? You're someone, maybe you did just go straight off to real estate or whatever the case may be for you. Your path was very linear, and, you may be a lawyer or a doctor or whatever, because that is the epitome of success. At least it was at one point, in American society. You're only surrounding yourself with people who are in that space. So you don't really know how to show up and just be yourself. And I think the more you spend time around people, right? These bougie people, and I mean, I say bougie because I'm kind of bougie, but the more you spend time with people who are in these like elite circles, right? This high class society. And it's like, well, my grandfather, you know what I mean? Like, the more you spend time around people like that, that's how you actually start to become. So this is why I think too, like, as I'm closing out this podcast episode, it's so important for you to be mindful of the people you spend time with. Seriously, like, don't play with that. That's a key to life. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, that's a really huge nugget that, like, it's so simple, and it's really a blessing because everybody can understand it. Like, it's not really giving, it's not giving Yale, it's not giving collegiate. Okay. It's not giving scholar. It's giving like just very basic fundamentals. Like, especially when you're growing up in the hood. Okay. When you grow up in the hood, when you're in the ghetto, when you're in deprivation, you got to be mindful. Okay. I'm talking head on the swivel. I can shoot, but I don't dribble. Okay. Like, I'm talking like you need to be like focused on handling your business and doing what you got to do to get yourself up out of that situation if that's not what you want for you, because it's like, I'm telling you right now, it's not really giving crabs in a barrel, but it's certainly giving survival. It's certainly giving target on your back. You know what I mean? And it's just because it's just something about the sniper in the spirit. Like, I don't know what it is. It's like people can't take that, so it's like you just have to. You definitely want to be mindful of the company that you keep, and then you get older, in life and things like that. You learn it's all about quality, and you learn that you're just grateful for the people that you do have. Like, I have a really good friend of mine. I love her so deeply. She came into my life at such a later time, when I was walking in my purpose, and, we met and when I was a teacher and everything. So it's like everything just was like very divine. And it was actually at a very dark place in my life. I had just come out of probably one of the worst seasons of my life. And, she was there, and it's like me and her, we just really hit it off. It just gives very divine. She encourages me in Christ. She holds me accountable. She speaks life over me. Like, I just love her so deeply. Like, that right there, that is priceless, and that's your worth, right? That's your worth in Christ. Like, right there is priceless. Like, this type of friendship that I have is priceless. I can't repay her. I'm never going to be able to buy her. It's nothing on this earth can be that. You know what I mean? Like, that right there is priceless. And so you learn in life, like, when you get to that point and you start having them relationships where it's like, it's priceless, you can't put a price on it. You just learn to enjoy your blessings. You know what I mean? Because it's like, it's nothing that you do. And that's how you should see yourself. Like, your worth is priceless. Like, I believe in that. I remember, like, early on, even when I was like, I was young, I wasn't really like in Christ, but, he had his hands on me. He always kept me. I remember, I had old videos where I was just joking, like, you can't put a price on it. And it's real. Like, you really can't put a price on it. Like, you can't put a price on an amazing spirit. You can't put a price on God's spirit. You can't put a price on it. You can't. And if that's the spirit that's dwelling in you, that's how you got to carry yourself. You see, that's all internal, because you realize that, God says, I am the branch, you're the vine. Without me, you can do nothing. So how can you really get so high and mighty about something that doesn't even come for you? I look around at people. I very much could be, doing something else. I very much can be on the other side. I very much can be walking in darkness. So I'm not going to sit here and take credit for what God has done in my life. I'm not going to sit here and act like he ain't had his hands on me. You know know what I mean? Because there's many times I didn't even want that. I look up at my life and he just completely transformed me. I don't even know where I was, what I wanted. And I still struggle with, certain desires and you know what I mean? So it's just like, I know he got his hands on me. He has his hands on you. Okay. Yes, he does. Don't get me to sing in a choir. Okay. Cause I look at a lot of people and I don't see that favor. I ain't seeing that holy oil. I'm not seeing them blessings and that fruit of the spirit up in their lives. So that's real, so seriously, like when you walking with God, you doing just fine. You're more than enough. You're beautiful. You're incredible. Like seriously, like, and that's really the thing. And that's the thing right there that pushes me through. That's the thing that allows me, it's his wisdom, right? That allows me to overcome insecurity and just things of the flesh. You know what I mean? Like things that just really don't matter. Like you're never going to be the baddest. You're just not going to be the baddest. Like I could be, gassed up. I'm like, oh, I'm the best, but I'm never going to be the baddest. You know what I mean? And when you operate from that space, from the worldly point of view, all you're going to have is insecurity. All you're going to have is self-doubt. All you're going to have is you're never going to be enough because you'll never be enough for this world. I tell you guys this all the time. Ain't no love in this world. I know this now that we're getting real, but I'm being that serious. Like it's really no love in this world. You know what I mean? Like John 10:10. God came to give us more life, and have it more abundantly, internal life. But this world is fleeting. You know what I mean? The things of this world is so fleeting. Like Satan comes to kill, steal, and destroy. Okay. So understand that. And I hope you guys have an amazing day. I really hope that you got something from this podcast in terms of like comparison and being grateful for your steps and walking out what it is that God has for you, and being confident within that. You cannot look to the left or the right. I'm telling you right now, you'll never measure up compared to the world's standards. It's always changing and it's always a matter of seasons and what's hot and what's not. So, don't ever place your worth in anything that you do. You could lose it all tomorrow. The Lord giveth and he taketh away. So be grateful for your portion. Stay humble. Be grateful for your lot. Enjoy yourself. You'll be celebrated. You ain't got to be all high and mighty on a self-promotion tip. But when you come into Christ, you're renewed, you're refined, and it's for your better. It's for the better. So peace, blessings. Love you guys. Talk soon.